Hey guys, what do you know about combat?
Like, comment, subscribe.
In this video, we will cover 3 tips from each category, 3 simple tips, 3 intermediate tips, and 3 advanced combat mechanics that will improve your gameplay. Let's start with something simple. It's important to know what each role does in a party. Generally speaking, there are 4 main classes: main DPS characters like Cell, utility characters like Anemo characters for grouping, or Geo for shielding. There's also healers like Jin, and last but not least, sub DPS for off-field damage. In a team, we want to build around the on-field main DPS, using utility skills to let the main DPS deal consistent damage, healers to ensure our main DPS stays alive, and lastly, sub DPS to provide off-field damage bonus. Now we move on to tip number 2. The enemies also have a team roster similar to ours. Usually, ranged characters are the supports, and we should target them first. For instance, in this video clip, you can see the Hydro Samachel healing his comrades in combat. Tip number 3 is probably something that's more useful. It's funneling between rotations. I'm sure many of us know that the 3 main factors for burst uptime is ER, burst energy requirement, and burst cooldown time. Funneling is collecting energy particles, especially of the same element, on characters with high burst energy requirements or very low ER. Tip number 4 is about rotations. Generally speaking, a rotation is a process where we cast our abilities, generally from the longest lasting to the shortest ones, starting with support and ending with main DPS and then snapshot abilities. More on snapshotting later on, but we have a comfortable rotation and this makes it easier to achieve consistent abyss clear times. Tip number 5 is on half rotations. In certain teams like the Rider National team, half rotations exist to help us minimize setup time and use only necessary energy and talents to finish off a wave or a chamber of the abyss. In this clip, the half rotation we use is Burnett and Shogun. Alright, for tip number 6 we have Snapshotting. Snapshot abilities apply all the buffs applied to the character or its ability in the instance that the ability is cast, such as Beidou and Xiangling's Q. A full list and guide of snapshot talents is down in the description for your reference. But generally, you want to set up all the buffs at the start of the rotation and then cast the snapshot ability at the end. So even if, let's say, we walk out of Burnett's buff, Xiangling's Q is still being buffed. During it, the other way around will make Xiangling's Q snapshot without the buff and the damage is stuck at a lower amount. Alright, before we move on to the advanced combat techniques, we are about halfway through this video, so I appreciate if you guys drop a like and a subscribe, and also do comment down below if you guys are unsure of any of these 9 tips that I'll be showing. I'll be able to make a more detailed guide for you guys. I'm part of the Genshin Adventure Guild Discord server, and that is where I'm most active in, so if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to ask any of them over there. We have other build advisors there as well that can really help you guys. Okay, so now we move on to the advanced combat techniques. Tip number 7. Animation cancelling. Some DPS characters have animations that can be cancelled to increase the number of attacks and abilities that can be cast per rotation. We'll be using Klee as an example, mainly because basically every animation except her burst can be cancelled. Normal attacks can be cancelled, charge attacks can be cancelled, and even her E can be cancelled. Knowing how to optimize animation cancelling will increase your total damage output significantly. Okay, for tip number 8, this is where things get a little bit spicy. So we've learned to cancel animations, but now we learn to cancel damage. Tip number 8 is on iframing, which is using a burst, which is longer but uses energy, or a sprint, which is shorter but uses stamina. During these animations, we are invulnerable. When we have energy, we can afford to use burst, which offers longer invulnerability time. However, especially when we are energy dry, we want to avoid sprinting unnecessarily because it will result in a stamina loss, which is needed to do a sprint iframe. This comes with practice and knowledge of enemy attack patterns, so we can time our iframes. Okay, the last one is a really big one. We have the theory of Elemetal gauge, founded by a bunch of theory crafters in Kerting Mains, link in the description. I won't go too in depth, but stick to the most applicable parts of it, because it might get a little bit confusing. I'm sure many of us know how to manipulate elements to trigger reactions. If you have wondered why it's easier to do pyro triggered reverse vapes, like Xiangling vs Xingqiu, and cryo triggered reverse melts, it's because of this theory. Pyro is the weak element in vaporize, and cryo is the weak one in melt. So generally speaking, hydro is the element that sticks onto the enemy better in vape teams, hence we can reverse vape more easily. Same thing for cryo on melt teams. Since the weaker element usually triggers reactions, they will be the one dealing most of the damage. For instance, Xiangling triggers in a team with Xingqiu, but usually this is not the case when Ganyu triggers in a team with Xiangling instead. There's a lot more to Elemental Gauge, but I want to keep this video succinct. Knowing which character triggers the elemental reaction is very useful because we all know which character to invest heavily in. For instance, in a Xiangling vape team, we will invest more into the Xiangling because she's the one getting the damage multiplier from the vape. Okay, that's it for today's guide on combat mechanics. If you guys want more specific tips to your account, the current Abyss cycle, and future ones, or make friends and say hi to me, feel free to join the Genshin Adventure Guild Discord server. We host regular events to help players kill Abyss, giveaway events, and look here, here's our combat mechanics video right here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you soon.
Like, comment, subscribe.